Hi everyone. One of the things that I discuss a lot with others and Sachin and me have been scratching our heads on is increasing the adoption of Evometrics, right? And doing it at scale. Currently, all our discussions are around a team, engineering manager adopting it, but how can it be done on scale? And during that discussion, the concept of IDP came in, and we thought, okay, let's catch hold of Santosh, who has joined us today. And to quickly introduce Santosh, he is part of the engineering leadership at Thoughtworks, and he has been talking a lot about importance of IDP, and he has a lot of thoughts around that. So, Santosh, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So, let's get started immediately. So, Santosh, how do you define an IDP?
Yeah. So still at a very concept stage, but um, it's a platform for developers. So right now it's you could call it internal developer platform, but we don't want to limit it to just it being for developers. What we really mean is anybody and everybody who is contributing to the creation of that software product or software asset. They all are included in this platform. So um, that's at a very high level. There are we have not yet thought about what would be the frameworks that we would use. There could be different frameworks, but yeah, that's the concept.
So, Dinkar, I have one question. So, IDP Internet Developer portals, which we talk about, I one name comes uh, to top of everyone's mind is Spotify Backstage, right? But I'm pretty sure that IDPs are not limited to that, and we were having IDPs in some shape or form, um, or to accelerate the development internally within the organization. So this is elevated to larger set of IDPs or developer portals or platforms which accelerate software delivery. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, and in fact, as probably instead of at least in this discussion, maybe it's engineering platform because that Santosh called out, right? Developer is not the only team member who's contributing to production software coming out, right? There are vendors, there are product managers, there are QAs, there are analysts, security. All of these folks, all of these roles comes together for a success software to go out. And one of the important part of all these platforms or portals in the past, in the future, is going to be metrics, right? How many activities happened? What was the output that came out? And I think one thing which is changing is focus towards outcome. People are Operational metrics have their value. We have always stated that they help in a value stream figure out where are the blocks, where are the inefficiencies, hotspots, address those things. But they don't necessarily give you a clear indication about the outcome. And one of our favorite analogy in this podcast is that I buy a very new car, very awesome, best engine, and I start driving, but I have not put on the GPS. So while I wanted to go towards Mysore, end up driving towards Chikmagalur because that North Star, that focus on outcome was not there. Right, all the metrics were performing very well. You're driving at optimum speed, gas usage, and all that. So this is where the how do we? So this is where the question comes next for you, Santosh. That uh, are people thinking of outcome metrics? Are people thinking of having that metrics driven North Star into these portals, or is it still more focused towards operational metrics, you know, productivity metrics, and these kind of things?
That's quite interesting. So the way we were thinking, and then because you and Sachin both brought up a good point. So I'll just drop the D in the IDP. It's some portal, some platform, some console. Um, and just to build on the analogy, since I'm just thinking on the fly, may not be perfect, but let's go with it. So that analogy that you gave, right? There is a GPS system. It is telling you where to go. Now, as a business, I want for Dinkar to take a detour and go to some other spot before you go to Mysore, right? Like I as a business need to introduce that to you, right? So what we're saying is that this P, whatever shape or form is, it should allow the whole organization to drive, what do you say, the way we are maybe developing software, or the way we are guiding the outcome. What I mean by that is, say you're in a bank, and some new compliance comes in. Now, instead of like doing series of trainings and letting people know, I should have an ability to introduce this through the portal, saying this compliance standard is to be applied to all the projects. Like every check-in, every production release happens, your build should be satisfying this criteria. Likewise, say business is trying to drive some outcomes. They want to correlate some outcomes. They should be able to do this through this portals, through one of this platform. That what we want to measure the adoption of certain features, or the engagement on certain certain experience. There should be flexibility to introduce that. And yes, like operational metrics, right? They give you instant feedback, right? And, how many, what do you say, I don't use them, but yeah, how many steps did you walk today, right? They are not, and people like them a lot. Everybody loves them. The instant metrics versus the business outcomes that you are talking about are generally long term. But definitely, through this, we want to drive people to not just look at the here and now, the operational metric, but also the so to say the outcomes that you would want to drive.
That's a very interesting point. Whenever you want to drive a change through organization's lens to all the developers, engineers, and consumers, it's important that you want to drive that. Now, one of the key factor to drive any change or intervention is to know what is the current state, what is the baseline. So you need to understand where to intervene and at what degree. A process interruption like introducing new compliance and driving across the organization, basically increase the adoption, is one thing. But also, how many teams have actually moved to this compliance is a metric which is outcome metric, because that is a change which you started driving. The other would be is there are a lot of people who are taking a risk of not adopting certain things which organization has committed, and these are internal metrics. These are not outcome metrics from the business, like the end user side, end consumer side, but these are organization's compliance department is also consumer of this, because they have taken up that as a success criteria to drive this change. So do you think there are certain metrics for internal like internal organizational parameters which become extremely critical as outcomes rather than operational metric, because people confuse these metrics as internal operational metric when they are actually outcome metrics?
Yeah, it's a valid point, right? I mean, just in the case of this compliance, not getting fined is that outcome, right? That this department will assure you. So yes, and I guess some of these vehicles that you mentioned, right? Like knowing how many teams have adopted, knowing the cost of not adopting, right? Like surfacing these things out helps you get insights. Like I think so that is
Yes.
what is, right? Like whether it's the operational metric, outcome metrics, you need insights. You need insights so that you can back up your decision, or even start taking decisions wherein you would not even be thinking about it. Like somebody just throws that number up saying that if this compliance is not adhered to, this is the risk that you're exposed. It's just that number will push people to start taking the right decision. Like I mean, a certain tech debt being accumulated, you're throwing a number saying something, your cost for change or maintenance, the size of maintenance team going up, right? Yeah.
One of the points which I have realized is anytime I see IDPs or developer portals being discussed, the lens which is applied is this is my leverage tool for acceleration. Whether I am creating repeatable things, whether I am providing them standards, sensible defaults, or some sort of like framework in which they can just like get in and get to do with the business implementation. But I also feel that there is another thing which is looming, which engineering teams are struggling with, and that is about, hey, it is we are going into a phase where it is rapidly changing software delivery, whether it is adoption of generative AI, or if certain teams are actually developing software, they are falling behind the schedule. Now, today, nobody thinks of this as a single pane of glass to understand the health of engineering teams. If you are at a DEC level, which is a digital engineering center, it will be super important for you to know that what are the impediments which are to my different teams, which is stopping them to deliver at an optimum level, because you have a lens now which allows you to see the health of teams. And this is not only from tech debt perspective, this is not only from the sense of do they have enough tools or do they have access to the cloud or not, but it is also this team is not performing to a level which I was hoping. What is stopping them? Is it like my change program hasn't reached there, or they are not having bandwidth to that do something about it? And I rarely see that people bring change management in the context of engineering organization and the developer portal as single pane of glass for them. It's always about, it is a one-way tool to provide acceleration to the teams, rather than saying it's a two-way street where people who can actually support these organizations, engineering leaders who can support this organization, can also look at it and start helping engineering teams. My biggest risk with the name like internal developer portal or engineering platforms or anything which is related to engineering is the business thing. This is something, not a tool which I log into. This is not my world, and that's why bringing outcomes into this context becomes extremely challenging, because people see these as operational, behind the scene kitchen tools rather than business tools.
To say that, if there are more suggestions to the names, because name do reveal a lot of things.
Intent.
Intent. The intent just comes with that name. If you get it wrong there, a lot of things can go wrong. So do suggest alternative names. So
one of the things that Santosh, I wanted to hear from you based upon your experience leading and building engineering organizations is, we have all agreed on the importance of this. And I think this is not an exceptional moment. It's very common. Everyone understands the importance, everyone agrees to it. But hardly this kind of things have happened. So there is some roadblock, there is some uphill battle in implementing this, operationalizing these IDPs. What in your experience have been the toughest scenarios or uphill battles that you had to fight, or you have seen other organizations struggle with? So basically my question is, everyone loves this idea, why isn't everyone already doing this?
I think couple of things. I think, Dinkar, when we say internal, right? I mean, it's I guess you almost don't pay as much attention that one needs to for that product definition and that product experience, in my opinion. Like whenever it's an external product, you're putting it out in front of the users, you would be like experience first, like how, because that user is you don't know that user, right? So you'll think of all the scenarios in which the user, you make it seamless for the user to adopt and use this. And also, most of that external products are fetching you revenue in some or the other form. Over here, the outcome of this itself is very long term, and because it's internal, right? That I think that's just my opinion, that people don't pay as much attention to defining this product as they should.
And this brings up what Sachin was also alluding to, right? there is probably a false or misleading association with this being internal to engineering organizations.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's not. It cuts across the engineering organization. It does give business very good visibility into how their investments in engineering organizations, how their investment in transforming engineering organizations, how their investment in bringing all the excellence to the engineering organization is giving returns. So somewhere I think maybe we seem to be agreeing that the name probably is also partially to the blame. So the moment we called it internal, we called it data developer, and then we put a term like platform on top of it.
Yeah.
Everyone says, okay, this is something these geeks and nerds are doing in
Yeah.
some corner.
People think of a scope
Yeah.
associating with that name, and you tell somebody that, oh, you're working on some internal initiative, people already would be, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, the alternate people use is developer experience, but that doesn't come to any rescue as well, because it only talks about developers. It is not a very inclusive term. It does not explain the intent super clear,
Yeah.
and I think there is something to be thought about, which is a broader issue. I also want to bring another lens to this conversation. Whenever we are thinking about developer experience, we are thinking only in the limitation of, I want to deliver certain features, deliver certain software. But whenever we are talking about outside, just you compare, there is a line drawn between in at the middle, where there is a production boundary. But then outside world, you have these various analytics to the level that where the eye of my user is, which button they are looking at, how much time they took to do certain things, how much dollar conversion happens, and I spent $50,000 on marketing, what was the ROI on that? But uh, there is a turn of events now on the earlier part of the organization, which is in the engineering part. And now I think the cost of engineering has bubbled up to a level where people are saying, okay, where is that analytic that where my developer is looking at right now? Are they looking in IDE? Are they looking in somewhere else? And it is coming through all sorts of uh, wrong intent. It is at least coming out like that. The intent is not that. Intent is to understand the productivity, but the intent, it is coming out like, okay, something is going wrong here. Now
Yeah.
I want to look at it. And how do you, as an engineering leader, Santosh, make sure that the intent is not misrepresented as diagnostic, rather than uh, it is not it is not something which is wrong I want to see, but I want to see that we are actually working right.
Let
Yeah.
me pile on to this question, Santosh. And I think what Sachin is also alluding to is how do we stop this from becoming a developer productivity, how many hours spent, how many line of code written kind of conversation. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
in absence of something good, people have kind of gone to the other extreme. And that worries a lot of people. And, the whole spectrum is kind of getting neglected because of that.
Yeah. So I think no straight answer, but I think the culture aspect will play
Hmm.
a major role in all of this, right? I mean, are we saying that, like, sans these tools, there was not this kind of monitoring, which we just felt wrong, right? I mean, there are places wherein you would uh, there are different tools and practices used to make sure that people are just continuously at the machine. So to me, it's culture. To me, it's also about, uh, through your process, what is it that you're what are the consequences associated, like how do you measure people, and
Hmm.
how do you either reward or penalize people, right? That's all it boils down to. And then people will know, oh, you know what, this particular thing the portal or platform is actually used in making us go faster. Like it's actually making us making somebody trying to solve our impediments faster, right? It's actually making me more productive. Like and I guess if we are creating software, you feel good when the software is in production. You see the adoption, you see the usage, right? I mean, though that gives us, people who are creating it a kick, and we want that kick sooner than later. So it's all about the culture. It's all about what you do with this telemetry. Like how are you intervening? How are you measuring? It all boils down to that, in my opinion.
Yeah. So this was very interesting. I mean, we started with trying to define what IDP is. We took a detour that the naming is important. Would love to hear what others share about the name. And we landed saying that this has been done before, probably not at the level it's being thought of now. And there is always going to be point of view on the things. There is now a focus on outcome side of things, how to enable developers, how to give them the right set of tools so they do whatever they do better and benefit not just themselves, not just the organization, not just the customers, but also the whole engineering culture in general. So before we wind up, any parting thoughts? I will go around. Sachin, maybe I'll go with you.
Yeah, my my feeling is there is a rise in a lot of engineering teams asking for such kind of developer platforms, developer experience tools, and it's a very good sign. It's just that a lot of people are not clearly mentioning what they want to achieve with it. It is stemming out of fear that something is going wrong and I want to fix it, rather than, hey, I want to do something which will take us into the next level of efficiency or even experience for my team so that they can deliver better. I want to just say one experience which I heard when I was talking to a customer whom I can't name. And in their presentations, in their internal documentation, they say, we want to provide the tools, techniques, and process to our people to give their best. That was the tagline which they used to carry. And I think that clearly shows the intent in the most correct way. Is our goal is to continuously provide you with something which allows you to deliver the best. And if that is the intent, I think the rest will follow properly.
Yeah. Santosh.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks for inviting me, having me over here. I guess um, because of the discussion, I think I'm more clear that we need to scope out the concept. We need to scope out the intent, and a lot of emphasis should go on the definition of the product itself, so that everybody should be feeling inclusive, just from the point of view that they have to contribute to this, and there is something for them to take away.
Yeah.
So
Thanks, and would love to hear from others who are building such portals, platforms in their organization, what their experience is. And I'm really interested in seeing the focus on outcomes and experience in whatever is being built. So thanks, and hope that you'll do that again in future on some other topic. Take care. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
thank you. Bye.